From our standpoint, this was just set up to be a lunch of two people that I like, and I guess they like me. And we're gonna have lunch. We're gonna talk.
You said, I guess you know I love you.
I know.
Did I?
But I don't want to put you in that spot. But
No, I'm standing in that spot. I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here. I love this guy right here.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
Come here. That's really nice. And that's from the heart. I didn't want to put you in that position, but that's from the heart. Special guy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Woke Global. Today we are going to be talking about the one and the only Kanye West. If you haven't heard from last week, his meeting with Mr. President Trump, where have you been? Because everyone's been talking about it. A lot of things have come out in terms of what he said, how he said it, some very on the line controversial things that you would expect Kanye West to say, and considering he's having a meeting with President Trump, you'd expect to be some level of controversy. Today what we're going to do is we're going to actually discuss the content, so what he actually said, his language, how he's saying it, really dissect and get into the meat rather than just sort of the skeleton bones that you'll probably see from just short clips either on social media or on major news outlets. If you have seen the short clips, please do bear in mind that it's likely that you're going to draw conclusions, because when Kanye West speaks anyway, he speaks very, very ranty. He flicks from subject to subject. He can sound all by himself quite chaotic in his thinking. So when you have that sort of communication style anyway, when you then clip that up, it makes him sound even more nuts. You know, it makes him sound even more chaotic and even more that he just doesn't know what he's talking about. In real terms, there is a lot of, dirt to get through in order to find what the actual message is and what he's actually trying to say. But when you do actually find what he has to say, you're going to find there are some little gemstones, there are some real truths in what he's saying. So in all of the loud noises, there's a lot of quiet truths simmering underneath. And what we're going to do today is we're going to really get into that, and hopefully at the end of it, you'll see that even though your opinion on him might not change as a person, you might perhaps think more calmly when you might sort of want to react to clips that you see in the future. So let's get started. And before we do, I think it's really important to stress that Kanye West is not a representative. He's not a political figure. I know he's saying that he wants to run for 2020, but he's not an actual representative. He doesn't represent anybody. He's just his own person. What's happening in particular with Kanye West, because he's talking about a lot of topics that do touch on black people and the black community, especially within the US, it's seeming as though because he's a high profile figure and he's black, he shouldn't be saying these things because it damages his social group that he derived from. But in real terms, if his counterparts that are on the same sort of platform as him that are white, whenever they make comments, they're not making comments on behalf of the white community. They're just making comments on behalf of their own opinions. And that is where Kanye West, in his own mind, certainly positions himself. If you listen to his language and the way he speaks, he's very much, when he speaks about black people, it's about them. So you can tell he almost disenfranchises himself in some aspects, but maybe not in others when it comes to sort of like music and those types of things. But definitely when it comes to political issues, he definitely disenfranchises himself from the black community. So it shouldn't be surprising when he says things that might be at the behest of the black community, because he doesn't necessarily put himself in that bracket when it comes to those types of things. So it's really important to stress that, and it makes it a little bit more easier, a little bit more palatable listening to him when you sort of dissociate the fact that yes, he may be a black man, but he's not saying things that necessarily are pro-black. If he has an agenda that happens to be beneficial to black people, then great. And then people jump on the bandwagon and think, oh, he's supporting black people now. And then he'll say something that might be contradictive or counterproductive towards the black community. And then all of a sudden he's going against his own race. The reason why that's happening is because he doesn't represent black people. He's just Kanye West. He's just an ideas guy. He's got ideas. And whatever side of the political spectrum that falls on, that's just so be it. He doesn't have a moral conscience to say this is what's going on and I need to be mindful of my language or what I say. So it all kicks off after all of the pleasantries about a conversation or questioning about Larry Hoover. If you're unaware of who Larry Hoover is, also known as King Larry, he is a former gang leader of the gangster Discipline Nation, which is a cargo street gang that went absolutely nationwide. He was convicted of his crimes and he was then further convicted of conspiracy, sent to a maximum security prison, and he's spending a life sentence of 200 years. He comes from Chicago, which is where Kanye West is from, and Kanye West was talking to President Trump about Larry Hoover and why the injustice of him being locked up for so long is. So here we go.
Hoover's lawyer with us today, and it's a prisoner that we're focused on. He has 6 life sentences, and they have him next to the Unabomber doing 23 and 1.
What did he do, Larry? What happened? What did he do?
Why is he in?
Yes, tell us the story.
Allegedly, it's for conspiracy from prison, from state prison. It's alleged. But we do believe, even if he did commit those crimes, the sentence was overly broad and too
What was the sentence?
6 consecutive life sentences in the most secure prison in the world, also known as the clean version of hell, for basically an economic crime.
What prison is that? Name of the prison?
ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado. They house the Unabomber, Al-Qaeda operatives, mass killers, Oklahoma City bomber, things of that nature.
How old is he? How old?
68.
He's 68 years old?
Yeah, 68 years old.
And really the reason why they imprisoned him is because he started doing positive for the community. He started showing that he actually had power, that he wasn't just one of a monolithic voice, but he could wrap people around. So there's theories that there's infinite amounts of universe and there's alternate universe. So it's very important for me to get Hoover out, because in an alternate universe, I am him. And I have to go and get him free, because he was doing positive inside of Chicago, just like how I'm moving back to Chicago. And it's not just about, getting on stage and being an entertainer and having a monolithic voice that's forced to be a specific part.
So what he's actually talking about here in relation to Larry Hoover and why he's feeling so compelled to want to do something to get him out is obviously, like he said, he says that he feels that this is what I love about Kanye West, is in the White House talking about alternate universes with with the president. So he, in an alternative universe, he is Larry Hoover. Basically, he sees himself in Larry Hoover and the fact that he is trying to influence his community for the better. He's obviously his hometown, Chicago. Obviously, the slight difference is that he was a notorious gangster. Where the story sort of changes, and the reason why there is debate is because once he went into prison, he became more of a reformed character. He did a lot for the community, set up a lot of charities, and even in the prison system itself, he managed to keep everybody in line. Anybody that wanted to join his gang had to be educated, had to be peaceful, and all these types of things. So he showed a real reforming character. The cynics say that he's doing this just to get out. The reason why he ended up with 200 years is because it then turned out, or it's transpired after investigation, that actually this was all just a front. The charity, no money went to charity. This was all just to fund actually all of his legal activities. What they're saying is, even if it turns out that is true, a 200-year sentence is just too extreme. People want, that's where the debate lies. However, this is something that is very close to Kanye West, and he decided he wanted to bring this up with the president.
You made a Superman. That's my favorite superhero. And you made a Superman cape for me also, as a guy that looks up to you, looks up to Rap Lauren, looks up to American industry guys. Non-political, no bullshit. Put the beep on it, however you want to do it, 5 seconds delay, and just goes in and gets it done. Right now, you gave me the heart to go to Adidas, because at Adidas, when I went in 2015, we were a $14 billion company, losing $2 billion a year. Now we have a $38 billion market cap. It's called the Yeezy effect. And I went to Casper. We had a meeting in Chicago, and I said, you have to bring manufacturing onshore, not even shore, into the core. It's not about the borders, the core of Adidas. And Chicago is the core of Middle America. We have to make Middle America strong. So I had the balls, because I had enough balls to put on this hat. I mean, this Adidas thing made me a billionaire. And I could have lost $200 million walking away from that deal. But even with that, I knew it was more important for me to take the chance of walking away from that deal than to have no fathers in Chicago with no homes.
So, Kanye West here, I feel, has made a very, very good point. This is something that I can get on board with. This is something that interests me. This is something that, in real terms, is actually done and is very beneficial to the hometown of Chicago and the people that live there. So, he starts off by obviously giving huge credit and praise to the president that he gave him strength and courage and, as he refers to, the balls to speak to Casper, who's the CEO of Adidas, and say, listen, I want to bring my company's merchandising, the factory, everything back to Chicago. I want it to be in the heart of Chicago where it belongs, and I'm willing to walk away from the table. The table, by the way, had $200 million on it, and he was willing to walk away from that kind of money. I don't care who you are and what kind of money you have, $200 million is a lot of money. So for him to potentially be in a position where he's happy to walk away from that due to his conviction, he wants his factories in Chicago, that speaks so much volume. It's also important to touch on the fact that he's stated how much money he's now made. So he's not only made a decision that's going to benefit the Chicago community, but he's also made a very sensible business decision that, one, makes him money, two, makes Adidas money, and of course, it definitely encourages the brand to be far more prominent within a certain area. It's going to be good for the brand. It's going to be good for Yeezy. It's going to be good for Adidas. He managed to work a deal that benefited absolutely everyone. And that's something that you can't sneer your nose up at. You have to say, do you know what? Hands up. I can get on board with that. I like that. Good work.
We have meditation. There's a lot of things affecting our mental health that makes us do crazy things, that puts us back into that trap door called the 13th Amendment. I did say abolish with the hat on, because why would you keep something around that's a trap door? If you build in a floor, the Constitution is the base of our industry, right? Of our country, of our company. Would you build a trap door that if you mess up and you accidentally something happens, you fall and you end up next to the Unabomber? You got to remove all that trapdoor out of the relationship. The four gentlemen that wrote the 13th Amendment, and I think the way the universe works, it's perfect. We don't have 13 floors, do we? You know, so the four gentlemen that wrote the 13th Amendment didn't look like the people they were amending. Also, at that point, it was illegal for blacks to read, or African Americans to read. And so that meant if you actually read the amendment, you get locked up and turned to a slave.
You gotta love this guy. The way he's sitting in the Oval Office with President Trump. He's just going crazy. He's just doing whatever he wants. Anyway, more pressing issue at hand is actually one key line that he said there that has caused probably the most outrage is that he said the 13th Amendment needs to be abolished. Like, whoa, Kanye, you've gone too far there. Abolished. To make it clear, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. So to abolish the 13th Amendment basically means it's free reign again. Now, nobody wants to see that. I definitely don't. So, why is he saying this? Where is this coming from? Is this what he actually means? Well, in all fairness to him, on another station later, he does amend his statement, and he says, I didn't mean abolish, I meant amend the 13th Amendment. I think in all cases, we just need to leave it all alone. We don't need to touch the 13th Amendment. However, what was very, very interesting further on in that conversation that he had on this different station was a point that he made. And this is where I feel Kanye West speaks silent truths. He says, the 13th Amendment is slavery in disguise, okay? And really want you to listen carefully here, because he's dropping some real truth bombs right now. This first time I heard this, it really hit me. It really resonated with me. I'll be surprised if you're watching this and it means absolutely nothing to you. So this is what he says. He said, in 1865, the 13th Amendment stated that no man is destined to slavery or involuntary servitude unless convicted of a crime. Kanye West said that this translates to, in order to make a freed man a slave, all you need to do is convict them of a crime. Just take a minute to take that in. I'm going to say that again for you guys. He said, the 13th Amendment, in 1865, the 13th Amendment stated that no man is destined to slavery or involuntary servitude unless convicted of a crime. Kanye West says this translates to, in order to make a freed man a slave, all you have to do is convict them of a crime. Now, while I disagree on Kanye West's proposals to abolish the 13th Amendment or amend the 13th Amendment, I do agree that there is definitely some truth in what he's saying here, in saying that the 13th Amendment in itself is just slavery in disguise. Because in real terms, if we look at our judicial system and our prison systems here in the UK and of course over in the US, you're predominantly finding young black men in those prisons incarcerated. So the fact that he said that, and the evidence suggests that these black people that were slaves are now still slaves in a different format, definitely means he's on a point here. He definitely has merit to what he says. And this is why I wish Kanye West was less chaotic when he speaks, because when he has an opportunity to actually really develop a full thought, there are some things that he says that are just so powerful. It's something that you'd expect maybe an incredible leader like Martin Luther King to say, or something like that. That's, if you saw that as a quote on a billboard somewhere, you definitely associate that to one of the most amazing pioneers or leaders of our time. You definitely wouldn't think Kanye West. But the crazy thing is that it was Kanye West. Kanye West does have these types of thoughts. He can say inspirational and thought-provoking things. But of course, the way he communicates, his language, and just who he is as a person, is going to find it very difficult amongst all of the other stuff that he says to really push these type of resonant messages through.
What I don't like about, it's not that I don't like, what I need Saturday Night Live to improve on, and what I need the liberals to improve on is, if he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes, the best factories, and we have to make our core be empowered. We have to bring jobs into America, because our best export is entertainment and ideas. But when we make everything in China and not in America, then we're cheating on our country. And we're putting people in positions to have to do illegal things to end up in the cheapest factory ever, the prison system.
Where things get slightly, I wouldn't say dangerous, but things again get to that point where you can't agree with Kanye West, is the moment that he makes the line to say he wished the liberals and people like SNL, Saturday Night Live, which is a huge program over in the US, that they would understand that the moment that they make the president look good, they make us all not look good. Now this is where he's getting it the wrong way round. SNL and the liberals are not making Trump not look good. Trump is making America not look good with the decisions that he decides to make, and the tweets he decides to post, and the commentary that he decides to make on huge divisive issues. One that springs to mind is what happened in Charlottesville, and his absolute failure to denounce the outright, and decided to say that all people were responsible for what happened there. Wow. I mean, there's no other leader in this world that I could think of, a legitimate leader for sure, that would make such ridiculous statements and inconsiderate points. He also is the president that decided to literally strip young children away from their parents and then put them in detention camps. This is a president that is making a mockery of the of the presidency itself. So if we liberals, or however he wants to put the left side of the argument in inverted commas, if he wants to say that the liberals are doing this, then he's really missed the point. All we can do is on all levels challenge this type of behaviour, no matter who the person is, and whether it be on political level, then our political leaders needs to be challenging President Trump globally, not just people in America, not just Republicans and Democrats, but globally, people should be challenging this type of behaviour. It's our moral obligation to do so. So if it's not on a political level and it's on a grassroots level, then individual people should be screaming, shouting, protesting, and exclaiming the passion for the fact that this is wrong and unacceptable and does not represent them. Whether it be media, they need to be making sure that they are reporting on this efficiently, correctly, not missing out any details, not misinforming the public, being completely clear and accurate, whether it's a journal article or it's via a news station. The information needs to be readily available for us to consume and be able to make informed decisions on, informed opinions on. It's the moral obligation. If a channel like SNL or station program like Saturday Night Live decides that in order to really push the agenda across to a wider public is to bring humor to the discussion, to make it draw in a greater audience, but still pick on the points that is actually happening, then that is the moral obligation to do so. So to make the argument to say we on the liberal left or the liberal side or snowflakes, however you want to call us, we're the people that are making the president look bad, that is totally missing the point. This is not a branding exercise. America can't stay quiet just in case people get a whiff that their president is making crazy decisions. We can make that assessment all by ourselves. If you guys in America stay silent about it and say absolutely nothing, then we're going to think that you're also a part of the problem. So the only thing you can do is do what is your moral obligation, which is to stand up to this type of divisive language, and that is what this president often does.
These two are special people. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, they're special people. And I appreciate it. Jim, Kanye, I appreciate it. So let's go have some lunch.
Wow. Okay, I'm doing this for everybody who's watching us who turned their volume down. You can put it back up again. That was
But if you think you're
bonkers.
going to get a thoughtful play-by-play and political analysis, you're not, because that was an assault on our White House.
It was a combination of stream of consciousness. I felt like I was sitting in on a psychiatric visit and a commercial for Donald Trump.
What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans.
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read. And we have this now, and now Donald Trump is going to use it and pervert it, and he's going to have somebody who can stand with him and take pictures.
Kanye, because he's put on a MAGA hat and he's an attention whore like the president, he's all of a sudden now the model spokesperson. He's the token Negro of the Trump administration.
All the things that we hear on the right side of the political spectrum, hearing people say things like this on the left side, to me, feels just as distasteful. Some of the key things that were said there about Kanye West: one, it was like sitting in on a psychiatric visit. Why are we mocking mental health? How does that add any validity to the discussion? It was like watching a minstrel show. It was embarrassing to Americans and African Americans. This is an example of a Negro that can't read. He can read. He's very articulate. He makes many points. Some points you may disagree with, but to start saying he's a Negro that can't read, that again adds no validity to the discussion, and it degrades the discussion. It degrades your argument as well. Can we not keep the conversation above board? If you disagree with some of his points, say you disagree with some of his points, but to go on this sort of attack on somebody because you strongly oppose their positions, it's disgraceful. If it was the other way around, there would be an absolute outrage. But some people seem to be okay to attack and speak in this kind of language. He's a token Negro. He's not a token Negro. He's a man of his own opinion. He just happens to be of an opinion at the moment that falls in line with people that are not usually of his colour. But there are other people of his colour that agree with him. And that, by using this type of language and calling him a token Negro, all it's going to do is force those people that do agree with him further away from the centre, further away from trying to feel that they belong within their race but have a different opinion. To call him a race traitor is a step too far. He's not a traitor to his race. you may disagree with his points of view, and you may feel strongly against what he has to what he stands for. But to say that he's a traitor to his race because he has some opinions, I feel again is a step too far. This is very, very dangerous, and we need to make sure that the conversations that we're having are about his language, about his content, and not just using derogatory terms that again just demean the whole conversation from the get-go. Anyway, I'm done here, folks. If you enjoyed the conversation, enjoyed the video, then please like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and look out for some more interesting videos coming to you very soon.